Hey guys, you're watching Editor G and this is our overview and hands-on review of the Realme Narzo 20 Pro. Now this was launched a while back, so this is somewhat of a long-term review, but still I'm going to unbox it and I'm going to give you a full overview of all this device gets. Now I have already unboxed it and obviously used the phone, but this is just to give you an idea of what it'll be like if you buy the phone brand new. So let's get started first with the unboxing. Here we go. It's a nice yellow box, like Realme does in signature Realme style. You first get this outer leaflet, which contains the silicone case along with a little bit of paperwork for the safety guide and the quick guide. That's about it. Now this is the silicone case. It's actually quite durable, looks to be decent quality, and it seems to be a sort of smoky color, which means it's probably going to be less prone to yellowing, and that's actually a very good thing. Okay, now let's get into the phone. This is the phone. It comes in this little plastic. Just take this out and slip it out. That's the phone. Now this color variant that we have is the Black Ninja color. You also get it in another brighter white variant, White Knight I think it's called. This Black Ninja color actually looks pretty nice. It has a subtle V-shaped design here on the back. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a slight V-shaped design here, which sometimes lights up in different lighting conditions and at different angles. But apart from that, it's just basic glossy black. So of course it is a fingerprint magnet. That's why you get this silicone case, so that you don't always keep getting fingerprints on the back side of the phone. You also see this quad rear camera setup and other things which we'll get to later. For now, let's just boot up the phone with this button. Now of course this is also a fingerprint scanner. This is something we've been seeing on a lot of mid-range phones, and I think it's actually a really nice feature to have. Let's keep the phone aside for now and see what else we get in the box. Now the good part here, this is one of my most favorite features of this phone. This is the 65-watt super dart charger, which means this phone charges astonishingly fast. In fact, Realme claims it goes from 0 to 14% in around 3 minutes. 0 to 100 with this 4500 mAh battery takes somewhere under an hour, sometimes around 45 minutes or so, which is really good. It's a very strong charging phone. Now let's keep this aside. Let's take a look at this. This is obviously the charging cable. It is USB Type-C, which is very good to see in 2020, 2021 also. And here the other side is just your regular USB, which is fine. And then we of course have the SIM ejector tool right here. We're actually going to use that because one other feature I'm going to show you right away. Where is it? Let's take a look. Let's find it. There we go. That is the SIM card tray, and right away let me show you that it gets a full size SIM card tray, which means it gets all of your 3 slots. It can hold 2 nano SIMs along with a micro SD card. There's no hybrid nonsense going around here. It is a full-fledged 2 SIM plus micro SD slot, which is really good to have. Let's pop this back in. Now this display is 6.5 inches in size. It's FHD plus resolution, which means it is full HD plus, so all your Netflix and OTT platform content streaming will happen in full HD. No problems there whatsoever. And on top of that, this is a 90Hz screen. It is IPS LCD, so you won't get the deep contrast of an AMOLED panel, but still 90Hz is really good. I'm glad that Realme has brought it in this price point. Apart from this, you'll notice that there does seem to be a screen guard here. Let me just take it off. There we go. So this is a plastic screen protector, but you do get this out of the box. You don't need to apply it on your own. You don't need to buy an extra one. You get this out of the box, which is really handy. Let's put that aside. Okay. Now you notice that this does have a hole punch display right here. There's no water drop notch. It's not centered. It's on this side. Now this is kind of polarizing. Some people like this design. Some people don't like it. Some people think it's modern. Some people think it's asymmetrical. Whatever the case may be, this is what the Realme Narzo 20 Pro has. So if you're considering this device, then you need to be okay with that hole punch on the left side. Now if you do look at it closely, you can see that there is a significant ring around the camera. Around the camera, there is a significant bezel between the lens of the camera and the screen. So it is obviously not the most flush hole punch, but still it is pretty small when you take in the whole 6.5-inch size of this display. Now speaking of the hole punch, this camera here is a 16 megapixel selfie camera. It also includes AI beauty modes and things like that. That's something I'll get into later, but it's just good to know right off the bat. That's a 16 megapixel camera in the hole punch display. On the back, you have a 48 megapixel quad camera unit, which is also, it's got AI enhancements, which basically means that it'll do things a little bit better like portraits, etc. You might get nicer, crisper shots, better background bokeh, and better object separation and subject separation from the camera. So it's 4 lenses right here. One's for ultra wide, one is for macro, one is for your primary, and one is your black and white portrait sensor, which is basically a mono sensor which helps with depth sensing when taking portrait shots. You also get a little bit of a Narzo branding here, designed by Realme. On the side, it's fairly thick. It's not a very thin device by any means, but that is to be expected at this price point. In fact, at the bottom, there's the speaker, the mic, the USB charging port, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is very, very good to see. Now, it is worth noting that this is a single firing speaker. There's no dual stereo speaker setup here. But at this price point, it's not that expected. It would have been nice, but it's not expected at this price point. Let's quickly take a look at the fingerprint scanner right here. It's fairly quick to open the device. It doesn't take very long at all. It's actually quite fast. And no failed inputs yet. Not a single failed input. Very good on that front. Now apart from this, it's worth noting that this phone is not too heavy despite all the stuff it packs in, and despite the thickness, it is pretty light at 191 grams, approximately 191 grams, that's what Realme says, and that's a decent enough size for a phone. Now if you do add the silicone case on top of this, of course it'll get slightly heavier, but not by much. Now if you visit the about section of this phone, you'll see that this phone runs on the Helio G95 processor, which is a quote-unquote gaming processor. So gaming performance from this is actually pretty smooth for the price. It's surprisingly smooth even on heavy intensive games like Call of Duty Mobile. On medium to high settings, it plays actually pretty smoothly. But that's also because it gets 8 GB of RAM on this model along with 128 GB of storage. You do get a lower variant which has 6 GB RAM, and you even get 64 GB storage options, but otherwise internal storage maximum is 128 GB, no 256 GB option. But that's okay because there is a micro SD card slot, I should say, which you can use to expand your memory to whatever you like. Apart from this, there is Android 10 on board. Right there, that's Android 10. Apart from Android 10, it runs on Realme UI, which over the years has gotten quite good. Bloatware is present but minimal, and most of it seems to be Realme's own apps like Realme Pesa, Realme Store, etc. Things like that. Nothing that's too untoward, but yeah, you do have to agree to a lot of privacy statements and policies before you're allowed to use most of these apps anyway. So if you want to delete them, you can go ahead and do that, no problem. You also get apps like for Realme Community if you want to get to their forums and see what other users are saying about their smartphones. You can do things like that on this, pretty fun. Now this being an Android 10 phone, of course you get all the latest things like gestural navigation. That is no problem whatsoever. You can swipe up to move through different apps. You can swipe from the bottom to move to different apps as well. And you can summon your Google Assistant, I should say. If I can swipe away from this, oh, it was swiped on the left, that's my bad. Swipe from this side, you get your Google Assistant as well. So that way it is up to date. You won't feel like this is an older generational phone by any means. It still has everything that you need. The notification drawer is still here. You still get things like dark mode, light mode, everything, no problems whatsoever. You also get things like nearby share. So that's Android's version of AirDrop, which is actually pretty handy. And you get other things like assistive ball. These are things that Realme has built into its Realme UI, which is sort of a not an outright copy, but somewhat inspired by Apple's Assistive Touch, which lets you use this as a sort of home button in case you don't want to use gesture navigations or you don't even want to use the 3 on-screen buttons. Okay, now let's dive into the camera app. The camera app is actually pretty feature rich. You get a whole lot of stuff on offer. You get different modes like night, video, photo, portrait, a dedicated mode for the 48 megapixel sensor, so if you want to get all the details in a nice landscape shot, you can do that as well. And you have this more tab which you can access other features like time lapse, slow-mo, ultra macro, pro mode, Google lens mode, and panorama picture mode as well. Now on the camera front, this phone is actually quite capable. That 48 megapixel high resolution sensor does enable it to take really nice detailed shots, and colors overall are quite punchy and quite accurate as well. In some situations, there are a few times where it won't white balance absolutely correctly. That usually happens in the ultra macro mode, and I found myself taking more macro pictures with the primary sensor rather than with the macro sensor altogether, because it just produced slightly better results. That's an experience that you may have as well, so you can choose which one you want to use. On the whole, there's a whole lot of versatility here. You can basically customize everything 6 ways to Sunday. You can choose what video recording capabilities you want. For instance, this can shoot up to 4K at 30 FPS with the rear camera and 1080p at 30 FPS with the selfie camera. So if you are someone who likes to shoot things with their phone, especially video, you're going to have a whole lot of fun with this one because it has all the features you really need. Another nifty feature is this. You can enable ultra wide mode in video mode. Now in fact, if you notice, Realme has enabled something called Ultra Steady Max here, which of course won't let you shoot in the ultra wide mode because it can't electrically stabilize that very well. But apart from that, you can actually use ultra steady mode to steady your shots even further. There is of course HDR also at hand, which is good, and you have chroma boost, which is basically a way for you to punch up pictures, especially if you think the colors aren't what you really want them to be. You can turn on chroma boost to really make them very, very punchy. You can also have these different filters at your disposal, which will basically change the way things look. You even have something called Cyberpunk, which is really cool. And now I'm basically going to show you a few of the camera samples that I got with this smartphone now. Now on the selfie front, you do have things like AI beauty mode. You have smoothen, thinner face, bigger eyes, smaller nose, chin, smaller face, touch up, whole lot of stuff to basically make you look not like yourself. So if you don't like that, you can just turn it all the way off. You can have it natural, no problems. Realme lets you do that. Some phones, even while telling you that they let you do that, don't let you do that. So it's good that Realme at least allows you to completely turn off that thing. But if you do want those features, you do have them on offer. Now, like I said before, this does have a 4500 mAh battery and it uses a 65 watt charger to charge itself up really quickly. And that 4500 mAh battery will last you at least a day with normal to regular usage, even with 90Hz turned on. But if you turn 90Hz off and you maybe tone your usage down a bit, let's say you don't play as many games or you don't do as much multitasking throughout the day, you can easily extend this over a day's battery life without any trouble whatsoever. Overall, the usage experience is really quite smooth. Realme's done a good job of improving their overall UI and making it really quick and snappy, and that 90Hz really plays into this. It may be a IPS LCD display, but still, the quality on offer with the display is actually pretty decent. In fact, let's just quickly play a video clip right here to show you what it looks like. So punchy colors on offer, really punchy. In fact, let me get the volume down a bit. because the speaker does get fairly loud. Even though it's a single speaker system, it does get fairly loud. Punchy colors on offer, great viewing angles. You won't really get too much darkening when you move the phone towards the sides, slightly, but that is expected from an IPS LCD display, and at this price point especially. But overall, it's a nice display. It's good enough for content watching. It's good for streaming YouTube videos, Netflix, Hotstar, whatever you like. No problem, this phone can do it all because it does have full HD streaming. Now throughout this video I have been saying price point again and again, so let me make you aware of that price point. This Realme Narzo 20 Pro starts at 13,999 rupees for its 6GB RAM, 64GB storage variant, and I think that's a very reasonable price for what's really a very good smartphone with a lot of features packed in. This particular variant with the 8GB RAM and 128GB storage comes in at 15,999, which again is quite reasonable because this is giving you a processor that can handle day-to-day usage, multitasking, etc. quite easily. It can even handle graphic-heavy games like Call of Duty Mobile without a problem, and it has 90Hz, it has a 48MP quad camera setup, it has 65W charging, so it is really offering you the whole package in a very reasonable price point, and that's something I think Realme does really well, and that's why the Narzo 20 Pro is actually far ahead of the competition at this price point. They're really taking the screws to the competition with the amount of features they're packing in, and they're packing in features that everyday people like. While they're not packing in a lot of gimmicks, they are packing in things like 65W charging, 90Hz fast refresh rate. Those are things that do matter to the customer in 2021. So that way, I think Realme Narzo 20 Pro, Realme has gotten a real winner on their hands with this one.